What's up, guys? Welcome into Good Morning Lambeau. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. You can find me on Twitter at Packers_access. If you want to email us, you can send a message to PackersTotalAccess@gmail.com. You can text us at 865-658-5824. I'm joined alongside Tim live in Green Bay. We got Jacob up there on the border of enemy territory, right on the Minnesota line, and out here ready to talk some Packers today. Get ready for this big Chiefs game. Tim, how you doing this morning, man?
Feeling good, feeling great. Happy to be here.
Deal,
how you
man.
guys doing? Got the diesel in the cup, ready to go?
Oh yeah, dude. We got plenty of diesel this morning, Jacob. What are you sipping on this morning, Jacob? You got anything in the cup over there?
It's just some really black, strong, very disgusting, cheap coffee.
Hey, there it is. That's what we refer to as whatever gets the motor revving. You know what I'm saying?
I got to tell you, I didn't expect that theme song when we went live.
Oh yeah,
I heard that. I was like, wait a minute.
Do I even know these guys?
Yeah, gotta bop it around. That's a good morning tune. Get you up and going.
Yeah, absolutely. Some people refer to it as something else, but that's okay. I think it works for the show. But here we go with the first super chat. Nick McSwain with super chat. Appreciate you, buddy, supporting the stream here. He says Mike Wall said the Chiefs like to force opposing offense to single block Chris Jones. How do they do that? And how could the Packers prevent them from doing it? Well, there's a couple of different ways. I seen them do it last year, Nick. I didn't get a chance to watch much of their tape this week, but typically what you do with an interior defensive lineman that can play multiple positions, and this is what I'm referring to all the time when I say the Packers need to go get that guy. They need to go get that interior defensive lineman that can play nose. He can play 1. He can play 3. He can play 5. Chris Jones last year, especially in the playoff run and down the stretch, if I remember correctly, I had a couple of daddy sodas on a cruise watching the Super Bowl on a cruise in this big, like little party room they had set up kind of on the edge of the ship. And I remember, the screen being a little blurry. I ain't going to lie to you. And I looked over to the side and I went, is that Chris Jones in a non-tech? What is he doing? Like they were doing that. They were putting him out there in the 5, the 7, and the 9. So there's a couple different ways you can do it. The easiest way, in my opinion, especially when you're in the nickel the majority of the time, is to play a 4-eye. And what I mean by 4-eye is, for those of you who don't know, when you're talking about defensive lineman technique, if you line up directly over the center, that's a 0. Directly over the guards is a 2. Directly over the tackle is a 4. Okay, so if you're directly over those offensive linemen, it's 0, 2, 4, right? If you're in the gaps in between, it turns to odd numbers. So in between the guard and the center would be a 1 tech, right? Well, if you want to get really, really specific, which the NFL does, they also have eye techniques, which basically means you're on the inside shoulder of that tech. So when I say 4-eye, it means the inside shoulder of the tackle. And when you do that in conjunction with the wide 9 that's out wide, you're forcing the tackle to fan out and cut and block the wide 9, and you're on the inside shoulder of the tackle, so you drive right into the guard. You're taking the center out of the equation, being able to block that 4-eye. Now, some people, in some cases, you'll see us do this with Kenny Clark and Devontae Wyatt from time to time. It leaves you very vulnerable up the middle, but in passing situations, who cares, right? So hopefully that answers your question there. I imagine that's what Mike is talking about. Now, there's other ways that you can get them freed up on a single block or even a free run if you're doing stunts, TTs, ETs, that type of thing. But for the most part, that's how I've seen NFL defensive linemen do that. And again, thank you so much for the super chat, buddy. We appreciate you. Before we kind of dive into the chat, as I go to comb through it here, Tim, is there anything on your mind? Jacob, same question. Anything y'all wanted to hit on this morning where you're like, hey, you know what? This has been at the forefront of my mind going into this game. Does anything come to mind at all, Tim?
No, just other than hoping the distractions don't get the best of us. There's a lot of extra going on this weekend, and it goes without saying. So just hopefully our guys are focused and ready for Kansas City, man. I just really hope our heads are focused on football, and I think they are. But I guess that's just what's been on my brain lately. This is. We talked about it. If we're going to catch an L, this would be the game to do it. I get that, but I'm of the mentality that we need to keep this win streak going. We finally got 2 wins in a row. We proved that we could do that, and I just hope the guys are all football and not too much craziness.
Definitely. The Mrs. Green in the house says, "Look at all these handsome devils up." I thought I was the only one that used that term. Handsome devils, early talking Packers, OG crew back in the house. Go Pack, go! I appreciate you, Mrs. Green, up in
You
here.
know that lady.
Yeah, you do. Making sure that we're not saying anything inappropriate. She's gonna come out and tell Tim, cut it out. We appreciate you tuning in, though, for sure.
Hey,
Maybe
can I get some more coffee, sweetheart? Thank you. Can I get a coffee run?
You can't get in trouble.
Jacob, what do you want to hit on first and foremost? Is anything at the forefront of your mind? If not, we got a whole show lined up. But I just wanted to kind of
actually it is. This morning I got up and tried to knock the dust off the old computer, and I think it's working out, so that's cool. But I was looking at all the clickbait articles and just the overall consensus on Twitter and on YouTube and all these things, and people are just, if you were to ask them, it seems like Patrick Mahomes and Love are on just complete opposite spectrums of the whole world. And when I looked at their stats, it was just kind of a little bit eye-popping. Mahomes is 280 out of 411 for 2,900 yards, basically 21 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. Love is 225 for 372, 2,600 yards, 19 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions. I mean, that's pretty. I mean, that Mahomes does not have a large leg up on him in the stat category. It is a little disparaging or I guess unique to see, though, that there is a big difference in their PFF comparison. I mean, they got basically Mahomes at 89.1 at an elite level. They have Love at 74.1. Passer rating clean, Mahomes is at 112.6. Love's at 93.8. What I thought was really cool, the passer rating under pressure, Mahomes is a 60.8, and Love is actually rated at a 69. So there is
pretty wild.
I mean, it's cool. I mean, you watch a lot of people focus strictly on like his arm release and the sidearm and that kind of stuff. And honestly, it kind of drives me nuts because sometimes I'm like, just throw the ball normal, just throw it normal. But I don't know, man. I don't think this game is too much for us. If anything, like Tim talks about it, they're just getting in their head with all this other off the field nonsense. I mean, it feels like a high school game. I'm going to say I watched Matt LaFleur again, and I have not watched a press conference, guys. Like I've said, I've been out of the game for about 3 weeks, solid 3 weeks. So I watched Matt LaFleur this morning, and I like 3 minutes in, I'm like, I don't know why. It's a personal thing now. I just have to admit it. I just personally can't stand the guy, and I don't know what he's saying all the right things. He's starting to get chummy with the media, and I think it's better. Like he seems like he's settling in, and that his team's coming together. So I like that. It's just I don't know why. They were asking him about Taylor Swift, and he was getting all snarky, and I was like, oh man.
Yeah, no one is for everyone, right? And I've been pretty vocal that I like Matt. I wish he approached it a little bit different, but the one thing you can't do is you can't be a fraud, right? You can't be fake going in there because that was what an old John Madden quote where he said, one thing you can't be is a phony because they're gonna read your phony, and once they think that you're faking who you're trying to be, you'll lose the whole locker room, you'll lose the whole team. I don't think Matt really cares what people think in that regard, so that's a good thing. But there's times I find myself going, man, can't you just have a little more of a little grit in your rear? You know what I mean? Like.
Yeah, I don't want him fired or anything. Like I just
right. It's just
I don't know why.
I got to be real though, man. When Mike McCarthy was here, I was going, how does he expect these guys to follow him when he's obviously not staying in shape himself? Like there's things like that come across my mind. Not to be overly critical of people, but when you read a bunch of leadership books, all those flaws start to pop out in other people. But then you got to take a step back, check your ego. I know this is me talking about me. I have to step back and go, okay. My life is nowhere near as successful as theirs. Maybe they're doing something that I haven't thought of. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, I like this right here. Mrs. Green said, get your own drinks, buddy. Which it is funny, though. Tim did magically pop up with another cup of drink. I'm just saying. I'm going to get you in trouble. We're both going to get in trouble. Fish in the chat says, looking for that big game from Myers. Wants to show that the Packers were right for taking him over Creed Humphrey. I didn't even think about that, Dead Fish. Tim, that's a good comment there, man. You're going to have both centers on display. Everyone has compared Josh Myers to Creed Humphrey, right? This entire time. I think we would all agree we would rather have Creed Humphrey than Josh Myers. But this is an opportunity for Josh Myers to go out there and show that he belongs and he deserves that starting center status, if you will, or maybe top 5 center status in the league. As he goes up against Creed Humphrey, man, that's going to be a really, really cool. There's storylines everywhere, Tim.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And Josh Myers has been playing better football. like a lot of the Packers the past couple of weeks. We went over that Baldy's breakdowns last week. He had an absolute perfectly executed pull block in our scheme. And I got to think we're going to pepper some of that in against Kansas City and Chris Jones. So, I think the best thing Josh Myers has been doing and can continue to do is, he spoke to Larry McCarron pregame last week about the little things and not making, the mistakes and doing the little things right. And I think at this point, if Josh Myers can continue to just not be a liability at center, we're going to be in a better position to win, do the small things. We haven't seen bad snaps recently, which is good, knock on wood. And yeah, believe it or not, even him, pulling out over there across the edge and, containing the edge on some of these plays, we talked early in the year about asking guys to do too much. Clearly they believe he can do this. And on occasion he has. So if he's going to execute some of these blocks and, help with setting protections maybe a little bit better and continues to play the way he has, I'm okay with Josh Myers,
Right.
Honestly, there's probably a change I'd rather see at right guard if we're talking about our offensive line and who we'd rather see out there. Yeah, I'm looking for a big game from Josh too. And big game for him means mistake-free football, right? I don't think any of us expects him to be the best center in the National Football League. But if you can keep those mistakes minimal and limit those bad reps, I think we'll be all right.
No, I think it's a good point. Go ahead, Jacob. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to take a minute. I know it's stupid and silly, but to name your kid Creed nowadays, that means that either you had to have really liked the band or you named him after Creed Bratton from The Office.
Hey, I'm cool with the latter, man. Creed is my guy.
You got to be a little out there.
Not Apollo Creed, not the boxer Creed.
No, that'd be good. But why not just go with Apollo? That's just way cooler.
I'm with you, Jacob. It's clearly after the band, right? I mean, did his parents meet at a Creed concert or something?
That could be it. Maybe he was conceived.
Explains
we,
why
we know that's one of Jacob's all-time favorite bands, right? For sure.
Nickelback, Creed.
Yeah, I can just hear it now. But, hey, are you named after, what is it, Scott Stapp? Is that his name, Scott Stapp? Are you named after Scott Stapp and Creed?
You can call me anything you want, but don't call me that.
There you go.
Oh,
Let's see what we got here else in the chat. And a great question, Deadfish. The way I'm looking at that with Myers, like I said, I think it's a platform. I think it's a stage for him to go out there and perform. Like many people pointed out in the chat, he has been playing better here lately. When I talked to Mike Wall earlier in the year, he said, listen, Clayton, he's an average offensive lineman. It's not like he's horrible, okay? He's an average offensive lineman. I think we would all agree, and Mike would too, you don't want to spend your second-round pick on an average offensive lineman, right? So he's definitely underperformed, but hey, maybe he could put it together. The one thing I like about Josh Myers, one of the things I like, I shouldn't say the one thing. One of the things I like is his build, right? It's so rare you get a center that big, as long as it doesn't affect how you play the center position. I don't think that's the case, but I'm looking forward to seeing that matchup for sure. It's funny, they're not going up against each other, but people are going to be watching that. At least the diehards will be watching that. There's no doubt. Great question, though, man. Appreciate it. Let's see. Chad Inc. in the house says their stats are comparable for sure. If Love didn't wake people up on Thanksgiving, he's going to definitely wake people up on Sunday night. It's another opportunity, Chad. There's no doubt about it, man. If he comes in there and he has a similar performance as he had in Detroit, and again, Detroit's defense is the weak spot of their team. All right, let's make no two ways about it. You hear Aiden Hutchinson, you think, oh, they must be great on defense. They're not a very good defense. The Chiefs have a legit top 3, top 5 defense, right? So it's going to be a much, much better test for Jordan Love on Sunday night, and it's just another piece of the puzzle that we're going to be able to put into place, right? That's what I'm excited about seeing for sure. Let's see, super chat here from Lucky said, can we tie the NFL record of 12 receivers per game? I'm not sure what you mean there, Lucky. Specify for me. Is he talking about how many receivers catch a ball or are targeted, maybe, you think, Jacob?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's the only thing I can come up with. If that's the case, I mean, I didn't know that was the record. That's pretty wild, though. I know this. Under Matt LaFleur, even last year, I pointed it out that Aaron Rodgers was hitting so many different receivers. And of course, the Aaron Rodgers haters came at me and were like, shut up, stop trying to make it sound like he's playing good. I'm just saying, like, they're hitting a lot of different receivers. Calm down. But you've seen it this year, too. That must be something within Matt LaFleur's scheme that definitely applies. It's like, hey, next man up. Let's get a heavy rotation going in. Don't be afraid to get any and everyone involved. But if that's what he's referring to there, though, as far as tying the record, I don't know, man. I guess it's possible. I mean, think about it. We got 5 receivers active typically on game day. Am I thinking right? 5 receivers, probably 3 tight ends, right? So that's 8. At least 3 running backs, maybe just 2. So that'd be 10. I don't know. That's a tough one to break right there, boys. What do you think, Tim? You think they get a shot at breaking that if that's what he's talking about? And
I don't know about breaking that, but I certainly agree with the sentiment. Look, these are 2 offenses that spread the ball around. Kansas City is the same way. I mean, we looked at those numbers, and certain guys are going to get more targets than others. You have your favorites or your high output players, but I think that's going to be a key too. I don't see necessarily one bona fide star. If we're going to beat the Chiefs in this defense, we got to get touches across the board and utilize this talent that we have. So I can totally see spreading the ball around for sure. I would love to see that. We saw success with our offense the instant that we stopped force feeding Christian Watson. We can almost go back and see that correlation. That the more Jay Love stands in there and gets through his reads and is looking to play within the scheme and hit guys that are schemed open rather than looking for Scoot, and keyholing and zeroing in on him. Spreading the ball around is bringing us success. I mean, I look at the catches Malik Heath had against Detroit, and were they game tilters? No, but they were drive extenders, and they were perfect when we needed them. The more you can spread that ball around, get Tucker Kraft involved, tight ends, running backs, receivers, that's going to bode well for our offense. If we find ourselves forcing balls to Romeo or, Christian Watson, that kind of thing, that's when we can kind of sputter. You can't get all the wheels turning. You want all the wheels turning. So, I don't know about tying the record or breaking the record, but hopefully they spread the ball around.
Yeah, I think the number I'm kind of coming up with is 8 or 9 is what I think it'll be. So I would have to answer no there. Jacob, you got anything to add to that, bud?
Yeah, it'll be tough to get up there. I mean, we'll get into it, I'm sure, in a little bit here, but I don't even know if we have enough receivers for people to catch the ball. I mean, for Christ's sakes, everybody's getting hurt.
Yeah, it's a good point. Definitely. Omer in the chat says our pass rush has to outplay theirs for sure. Hopefully they look like they did last week. Yeah, I would like to see them pin their ears back for sure. We're going to talk about that here in a minute. Bleeding Green and Gold says, Taylor Swift, I'm over it. Let me know when Megadeth shows up to Lambeau.
I don't listen too much Taylor Swift.
Oh, my God. You guys are awesome. Megadeth, I haven't heard that since I was in high school, bro. Megadeth was the rage in the 90s. Jacob, you got a little Megadeth over there, bro?
I know what it is, but I never got into it. I don't know why. I was into like a lot of I loved System of a Down when I was a kid. That was my jam.
Got it. I had everything, bro. I literally had Merle Haggard next to AC/DC, next to Kenny Chesney, next to Tupac in the CD changer, bro. I listened to everything.
Man, why did they get together and do a song? That would have been
great. Yeah, that would have brung the world together for sure. Jennifer Wright in the chat says Matt LaFleur is easy on the eyes. I remember when they hired him.
Oh my
Packers Twitter went crazy, bro. The girls were nuts. It was just nothing but the heart eyes everywhere emoji, So you're not alone there, Jennifer. Not that I agree. I'm just saying that other people. You got it. Mrs. Green said we'll have to send Jacob a collector's box set of Creed's greatest hits for Christmas.
She does that. I'm sending Tim that Taylor Swift anthology. I'm telling you. Like we said, when you said we got to get him a fathead, I looked it up. It's easy. We can get him. Taylor Swift has you can get him cardboard cutouts and stuff. Life size.
Tell him, Tim, stop playing with you, man. You know what I mean?
Although I will say, watching Taylor Swift dance, I bet you the cardboard cutout would do just as well.
There it is. That's what I'm here for. There we go, Jacob.
Dance is like a wet piece of plywood.
Paul Robertson says Jacob has the Dallas Cowboys Creed halftime performance saved on his computer.
I don't know why I came back to this show. I don't know.
That might be. Is that why you had computer issues, Jacob?
Self-destructed.
Welcome back, Jacob. Welcome back, my man. Mock says Carl Brooks 2 more sacks on Sunday. Carl Brooks is doing things that not many people have done. He's a couple. What was it last week? He was if I remember correctly, the top graded interior defensive line in the entire NFL. Like, it's just absolutely wild, man. Got to get him more snaps. And you're seeing it increase. It went from about 12 to 15 to cracking 15 and then up to 30. I think they're going to get him more and more involved. They need to. They need to stop looking at those, the rounds that they took the picks, took the players in. Forget those. Once you're on a team, remove that draft pick status and play the best players. Of course, I say that, but we all know there's going to be a young fella by the name of Darnell Savage that'll probably get on the field at some point. But Mrs. Green says, Mahomes has never played at Lambeau, and he said, quote, if you love football, you love Lambeau Field. Respect. That is really cool. I like Pat Mahomes personally. I think he is he's one of those players that as he came along, I'm kind of an old school type person. So, I'm thinking of the great quarterbacks that have kind of come before him, right? I remember Steve McNair was real big down here in Tennessee, obviously, during his time, rest in peace. You had people like, even Randall Cunningham back in the day was kind of that, playing on the fly, kind of like how Pat Mahomes does. Obviously, Mike Vick before he started fighting dogs. I'm not saying I support that. I'm just saying Mike Vick was great on the football field, right? You got to say these things, Jacob. You'll get roasted if you don't, man.
No, it's just
and then we come out of this era where it was Favre, right? And Tom Brady and Peyton Manning and all these great Aaron Rodgers' career is winding down. You're looking for those quarterbacks to kind of embrace that role of the future of the NFL. And I think Pat Mahomes does that pretty good. I do. So
absolutely.
If he can just keep from getting roasted with his wife running her mouth, which she settled down a lot, I believe. That got ugly last year for sure. Let's do this. Let's look ahead to the Week 13 slate. It's going to be hard for you guys to see. I'm going to read it off. If you got any questions, just ask me. These are the games that I circled that I feel like we need to keep an eye on to help the Packers. There's a couple caveats here that we're going to kind of hit on. Obviously, Dallas took care of business against Seattle. Atlanta at the New York Jets. Some people are saying, no, we want Atlanta to win the division. Where we're at right now at this point, with 5-6 games left for pretty much every team, what I'm looking at is I want to make sure the tiebreaker doesn't even apply. Once we get to the point where the tiebreaker applies, we will become Falcon fans. But yes, if you had to choose, we want the Falcons to win the South over the Saints because we have the tiebreaker over the Saints, right? Whichever team doesn't win that division, whichever team refuses to accept that soft division championship, then we want that tiebreaker. But as it sits right now, why don't we finish a game with one more win ahead of both of those teams so we ain't got to worry about the tiebreaker? So for that to happen, you want the Jets to somehow, some way beat the Falcons at the Meadowlands. That's a 1 o'clock kickoff. Then you got Detroit at New Orleans. Obviously, you want Detroit to knock off New Orleans because they're also competing there for the for that one of those final wild card spots with Atlanta. That's going to be a 1 o'clock kickoff down there in New Orleans. And then you got Carolina at Tampa in the 4 o'clock slot. That's going to be down in Florida. You want Carolina, obviously, to beat Tampa Bay. They're one of the teams that's just behind the Packers in the standings for one of those final wild card spots. And then, of course, Cleveland at the LA Rams. That's a 4:25 kickoff. Definitely want Cleveland to beat LA because they're just behind the Packers as well. So anything that you guys disagree with there? Now, some immediately people, I know Omer is going to say, no, we still got a shot at the division. That's absolutely true. Absolutely true. But the percentage chance of us winning the division is much lower than us making a wild card spot. So the way I'm seeing it right now, I would much rather Detroit beat New Orleans and keep them off our back, right? And that way we can stay a game ahead of both them and Atlanta. That's just how I see it. But Tim, what do you think, man? Anything stick out to you there? Any games you're interested in watching?
I don't know about interested in watching, especially that Carolina Tampa Bay game. I don't know. We talked about, we've got to play both of those teams here coming up. We talked about, the Tampa Bay game being one of those we were kind of concerned about. Not even concerned, but I'll just call it the Baker Mayfield effect, I guess. That guy is a gamer, and you never know. Even on a bad team, he can rally the troops and get a dub. But no, I'm with you on this assessment. At first glance, seeing Detroit circled, going, oh, well, why would we want them to win? It's like, well, let's play the odds here. Let's play the numbers. It would make sense. I'm with you, Clayton. Keep the Saints off our back. That Jets and Falcons game looks a little interesting. I think that one might be the one to watch, right? That New York Jet defense against Atlanta's offense might be something to keep an eye on. But no, I'm with you with this breakdown for sure.
Yeah. What about you, Jacob?
Yeah, it pains me a little bit to try to even cheer for the Lions in any capacity, but I guess I do understand that logic. But it I don't know, man. Is it true that Joe Flacco is going to be starting again?
I believe so, if I understood correctly.
I don't know if you
haven't.
guys, I don't know if I've seen this. I'm a giant Joe Flacco fan.
No, you ain't, dude.
I'm serious. Look at his Wikipedia page, pull it up, and read it, and be like, I love this man. I love him.
All right. I'm
He's
gonna
still
have to
has
do
one
that.
of the strongest arms in the NFL. I'm telling you.
That's awesome, dude. Hey, he got his money. You talk about peaking at the perfect time, get that huge contract.
He's Super Bowl winning quarterback as well.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Right.
That stuff matters. There's no doubt about it. Let's talk about the injury report real quick. Let's hit on this. Actually, you know what? Let's hit a quick video because this is going to kind of intro the Chiefs game, if you will. And we'll check this out. It comes from Packers Daily. This is Larry McCarron just kind of talking about Jordan Love, talking about the Chiefs coming into Lambeau. You guys can find this video on Packers.com for free, YouTube for free, on Twitter, their Twitter account. They tweet it out. Go show them some love, give them a follow, retweet it, all that good stuff. Love the work that they do over at Packers Daily. Let's check it out.
With the Seahawks loss in Dallas Thursday night, the Packers sit just a half game back from a pair of teams in the wild card standings. But you won't see this team getting caught up in the playoff talk.
Absolutely not. You know how we operate. It is about staying in the moment. We got a great opponent coming in here to Lambeau on Sunday Night Football, another primetime game. We can't look any further than that.
Speaking of Sunday Night Football, this is the first time the Packers will be showcased in that spotlight this season. It also marks the first game of December. Both have been staples of success since Matt LaFleur became head coach. Count them, 15 straight wins in the final month of the calendar year. You can check all the boxes. Sunday night, Packers Chiefs. It has all the elements you're looking for in a marquee matchup.
Please welcome your Green Bay Packers.
You got the defending Super Bowl champs coming into our house. You know, that's what we want. You know what I'm saying? It's a huge game. You know, we definitely need this game, and we're going to give everything we got on Sunday night.
Under pressure, he is sacked. Kenny Clark.
It's always awesome playing those primetime games, those big games, and, you know, I'm excited for a lot of the young guys. It's their first opportunity in a game like this.
Night games in Lambeau are really special, especially when it gets down to November and December. Weather starts turning, starts getting cold, you can really see the breath. So I'm really excited. Everybody gets a little more juiced up.
I think the energy is going to be there, you know, obviously from the fans as well. I think it's going to be rocking. It'll be a good environment for us.
Watson, touchdown Green Bay Packers.
Sunday Night Football in Lambeau, they're going to have to go through us, and we're going to go out there and prove it against the defending Super Bowl champs.
Gotta love seeing Christian Watson turn his season around. Again, guys, go show him some love over at Packers Daily. Excellent video there. Larry McCarron, a national gem. There's no doubt about it. Let's see here in the chat real quick. I thought this was cool. Mike said, I'd love to see Carl Brooks at edge more and LVN on the inside more. The problem I have with Carl Brooks being on the edge, it can only happen in the nickel. And the reason being is if you're in the 34 base, you're going to be asking him to cover like they asked Preston Smith to cover when you get certain looks, right? Carl Brooks has never done that. Preston Smith's pretty much done it his whole career, being able to drop back into coverage. You've seen it under Mike Pettin, all that. He's got a huge wingspan. He's one of those guys that if you can kind of show blitz, get back into coverage, got those long arms that you can bat those balls down. Not that Carl Brooks isn't built similar. It's just he's always just been kind of a pass rusher, if you will, and more specifically on the interior, although in college they played him on the edge some too. In an obvious passing situation, Mike, I completely agree. But the problem is the second you get him in there and then they sub back to their base, you go back to their base and you're going to put him at outside linebacker, that's where you're going to get a little bit dicey, right? For sure. If you think the Joe Barry haters can't stand seeing Preston Smith stand up, wait till Carl Brooks is standing up out there. They're going to lose their ever-loving mind, no doubt about it. Nick McSwain said, how is it a half game behind did someone tie? You still got some buys that are involved there. If you'll notice, some teams have played more games than the other. When is the last bye week, guys? Has it already happened? I mean, you would think.
Isn't it this week?
I think it's this week.
Don't the Bears have a bye?
Bears want to buy the Bills, I think.
I think Minnesota does too, don't they, if I remember correctly? So, yeah, I believe so. So that's what it is, Nick. We're finishing up the bye week. So you've got some teams that have played one more game than others. So that's how you get into the half game there for sure. But, yeah, appreciate you asking that. Yeah, Bleeding Green and Gold here in the chat said, good answer, Matt LaFleur. They said, are you worried about the playoffs? This was his response.
Playoffs? Don't talk about it. Playoffs? You kidding me? Playoffs? I just hope we can win a game. Another game.
He didn't say that last part, though. All right, so everybody calm down. Injury report. It's a long one. Y'all give me a second here, okay? We're going to remove the ones that don't have a game status because obviously they're good to go. Let's talk first and foremost who's out, okay? Aaron Jones is going to be out. That's catching nobody by surprise there. We were thinking he's going to be out at least 2 weeks. If we thought it was going to be in the 4-week range, he would have hit the IR already. So I think they're probably looking at that 3-game range, getting him back next week. So with that being said, Aaron Jones is out this game with the knee injury. Questionable, okay? I'm sorry, doubtful. Doubtful means there's like a 25% chance they'll play. So you can pretty much cross it off. They're not going to be playing. That's Eric Stokes, okay? So you can't expect to have him on the field there tomorrow night against the Chiefs. Now, questionable, Jair Alexander, Devondre Campbell. You got Josiah DeGuara. You got Rudy Ford. You've got Jaden Reed, Robert Rochelle, Darnell Savage, and Dontavian Wicks. The only one really, if you were to look at those and say, okay, which one do you think has the least chance to make it to the field? I don't know, man. For me, the one that worries me the most probably would be, and it's not really a worry because of the status and the stature of player he is Robert Rochelle. Like, I could see Robert Rochelle, not playing. And when you look at the limited participation there too, obviously with Dontavian Wicks, I'm feeling a lot better about that. They've got it listed as a knee. We know the concussion kept him out last week. We need Tay Wicks in this game, Tim. We need him out there. Rudy Ford, Jair Alexander, big additions, Devondre Campbell. Again, we've talked about it all week. We'll hit on it again. I want to actually, let me go to Jacob. I want to get Jacob's take on this. Jacob, we were kind of talking like the defense is playing really good right now, right? Do you think this upsets the card a little bit, getting Jair, Devondre Campbell, these guys back? Is there a chance that you somehow, some way, they have a little bit of rust they've got to knock off, and the defense takes a step back here? It's hard to imagine with the stature of those players and how good they are, but what do you think, man?
Yeah. I mean, I've been very critical of Jair this year for a number of reasons. One being his play, two being the attitude, and it's been a pleasant surprise to see the team gelling together. Like I said, I've been really impressed with Ballantyne and Valentine. Young guys, even like Owens has been stepping up. He had that one game where he just looked like trash. And then the next game he came out and I think he took it personally. I think, what did he have? Like 9 tackles, that pick 6 and all that kind of stuff. So I'd like to see Rudy Ford come back. I think that I read somewhere that he had one of the lowest passer ratings against him of any safeties in the league at the time. So I really do want to see Wicks back. That Don Wicks, man, that's my guy. I think he's going to continue to grow and be possibly one of the best of that draft class. Can you guys do me a favor? Who's Robert Rochelle? Can you give me a little
Tim, you want to answer that for him?
Special teamer, pretty much. I don't think we've seen him get any reps or snaps as a corner. And I know he was a pretty late addition, right? When did we pick him up? A few weeks ago to the practice squad, and then he was elevated.
I think it was more or less to bolster the roster to make sure you got enough corners, right? And more so even for practice purposes, right? I don't think he'll be active on Sunday. If Jair's good to go, Robert Rochelle won't be active. I just don't see it. So that's the one I went through and went, if there's one I had to pick, that would be the one. Let's let him heal up a bit. You know what I'm saying?
He did have a great rep though on special teams in that Lions game, if I remember correct. Had a great tackle on one of the kicks. But yeah, I guess that's the highlight for Robert Rochelle. I think you're right, Clayton. I think he might have been a contingency plan for both Jair and Stokes. We don't know what Stokes is looking like going forward. We know he's not going to play tomorrow. But yeah, I'm with you. These roster spots are a premium here. You've got to make sure you fill out your squad, but then we also need to know who we're going to activate on game day. So yeah, I don't think we'll see Robert Rochelle. But I think most of these questionable players on this list are going to go. The only one I would think maybe would be Josiah DeGuara. Possibly not. He could be a late scratch again, not because of him, but because of roster space and who we need. We've got we're down Aaron Jones again, so we're a little thinner at running back. We talked about corners, so all these things kind of play off each other, right? When you're trying to put together your team, who's going to put pads and a helmet on, you got to be really particular. And DeGuara with that hip, he's been dealing with that hip for well over a month now. And I could see him being a scratch in order to simply make room for somebody else. But we'll see,
Yeah. Bleeding Green and Gold said Rochelle kept that punt out of the end zone down to the 2. So that was him.
That's what I'm thinking of. Yep.
Yeah. So you know what? That's obviously a huge play in that game. That was in Detroit, if I remember correctly. Maybe he will be active for special teams purposes, right? And listen, you're never going to hear me foo-foo special teams ever again in my whole life. I promise you that. I still have flashbacks from 2 years ago. I'm just telling you right now. Let's take that serious. You know what I'm saying? So let's see here what else we got real quick. Mock in the chat says, hot take, I hope DeGuara doesn't play. The offense flowed way better on Thanksgiving without him, in my opinion. It's true. Ben Sims been grading out pretty decent PFF-wise, filling in. Tucker Kraft, did his job. PFF disagrees that he's played well, although I think that he's one of those players, like you've seen him on the sideline against the Chargers. If he didn't step out of bounds there, everybody's looking at him totally different, right? So, Again, we talked about DeGuara. He's obviously a locker room leader. The guys love him. Tucker Kraft absolutely just raved over how he's been not just a team leader, but a spiritual leader in the locker room. All those things, that stuff definitely matters when you're putting a team together. I would be okay if he didn't play, though. I understand what you're saying there, Mike. It seems like his days are kind of numbered in Green Bay. Although, if he's willing to come back on a minimum-esque, type contract, I think they would definitely have him back for depth, team leadership, that type of thing, and filling in a pinch. But he's a hybrid fullback coming out of college, right? And Matt LaFleur has stayed in that vein of the Sean McVay style of this offense rather than the Kyle Shanahan, where we're using more 11 personnel than 21. So just kind of doesn't fit what LaFleur wants to do. I think it's a player that probably Goody fell in love with, and LaFleur's tried to fit a square peg in a round hole, and him wanting to do 11 and all these nasty 11 condensed. So
probably why Shanahan's got a true fullback over there in San Francisco as well, and they're not screwing around with tight end hybrid type of guys. They've got tight ends, and then they've got themselves probably the fullback, the fullback in the National Football League in Kyle Juszczyk. So you're right. It's just a similar scheme but different approaches, right?
Yeah, definitely. Jacob, what do you think? Matt tried to tell us, man.
Did you guys have, by chance, I can't remember, was it the blocked extra point or whatever? Did you look at that? Who was responsible for letting that guy come off the edge?
Yeah,
I was pretty sure that was DeGuara, wasn't it?
Sure
he
was.
Just whiffed on it. Looked like he didn't even. So, I don't know. I still got the jersey up. Cat couldn't hold me down. He doesn't tell me how to live. So I'm going to keep that thing because I want him. I'm pulling for him. We spoke with his father, didn't we, on the podcast at one point?
We didn't, but so I think JJ did. On the network, if I remember correctly,
just seemed like a really nice family, a great guy. So I'm still pulling for him.
Yeah, for sure, man. It's just one of those things, dude. He, I don't know. He's underperforming. It's a 3rd round pick. If we draft him in the 5th or 6th round, I'd be like, hey, man, it is what it is. But those, 3rd round picks, boys, you don't need me to tell you. That's for sure. Let's see here in the chat. We got Mock in here who keeps it real simple and just simply says, Simone Biles versus Taylor Swift, spotted cow chug off tomorrow night. Book it.
I don't listen too much Taylor Swift.
It is pretty wild that Simone Biles hasn't gotten more love, but Taylor Swift is the talking point. Girl got a gold medal or two, don't she? National. I don't know if we should say hero, but just definitely someone the youth looks up to in this country, right? Married to Jonathan Owens.
An absolute champion, right?
Are you saying Taylor Swift isn't a champion, Tim?
No, I'm well, technically, no, she's not. Right?
Jacob Witt. Yeah, pretty much. That's what I'm saying.
We like champions. We like champions here in Titletown.
Take it out.
Yeah. I know this, man. The Swifties are going to come after this show if they know we exist. I expect them to show up knocking on the door any second, man. All right, so we hit the injury report. Another quick clip I want to show you guys. This is from the McAfee show. Really cool. It's just real quick, 2-minute clip. Ty Schmidt, big Packer fan, asked Michael Lombardi on the McAfee show, what he thinks about Jordan Love and the Packers in general. Just like I said, just a quick response. I thought it was cool, some of the things that Michael Lombardi hit on. Listen, I understand some people don't like Michael Lombardi. I've read all of his books, 2 of his books. They're absolutely awesome. This is a guy who's who's basically been within the organization of 3 Super Bowl winners. He was a GM in Cleveland for a year, kind of bridging the gap between regimes, if you will. He's a guy who studied under Bill Walsh. I mention these things because people like to foo-foo his opinion. Listen, he's very brash. He's kind of rude. He'll tell you I'm rude because I'm Italian, right? That's what he always says. It's just kind of how he is. It's in his blood. But he's a guy who's seen a lot of football. He knows a lot of football. And I'm just telling you right now, if you haven't read his books, you should pick it up. The one is Gridiron Genius is absolutely phenomenal. He studied under Al Davis. He studied under Bill Walsh. He got to drive Bill Walsh from town to town doing scouting, things like that. Obviously, he worked hand in hand with Bill Belichick. They're close friends. I'm sorry, you don't get to that level of football and not know what the hell you're talking about. So it's hard for me to agree with the random fan who doesn't have a profile pic, doesn't use his real name on Twitter, telling me that Michael Lombardi is trash. But here is his take on the Green Bay Packers.
Schmidt.
Lambeau, what about Sunday night, Chiefs-Packers? Do you think last week after the Chiefs kind of broke out of their rut and looked pretty good in the second half that they've kind of bucked that trend that they can't score in the second half? And on the other side, Packers have looked much better over the last 4 weeks. Do you think Jordan Love has done enough that they are comfortable with him kind of going into the future? Obviously, that young offense has matured quite a bit over the last several weeks. How do you see Sunday night shaking out?
Well, I think the Packers have done a really good job with their offensive line pass protection, and Love's done a good job improving his completion percentage and his accuracy, especially against man coverage. When Detroit tried to really clamp the receivers down, they couldn't win one-on-one on the outside. Green Bay did a great job of winning the one-on-one matchups, in terms of giving the quarterback a chance to make the throw. But remember, in the second half, it was really Detroit not being able to convert fourth downs or going for it on fourth down. It set up the Packers' only score in the second half. So I think this is a different challenge. Kansas City can rush. Kansas City can play really good man-to-man defense. So I think they're going to learn a lot about Love's future on Sunday night in Green Bay. I really do. I think they're going to give out Vince Lombardi. His grandson, John Lombardi, is going to be there at the game to accept his Hall of Fame ring. So it's going to be a tremendous celebration for him and his family. So there'll be a lot of motivation left in that. If we could only get Jack Venici's name up on the Wall of Fame, that would be better. But I think it'll be a great game. I worry about Green Bay being able to protect, Green Bay being able to handle the Chiefs, especially the way Rice has played. Can they cover in the back end? They need Alexander. I think it's a close game. I don't know why the line's 6. I really don't. But the Chiefs seem to always play well in these situations.
All right. So, a couple things there to break down. First of all, he's talking about the pass protection being good. We're going to talk about Elton Jenkins here in a second. John Lombardi is one of Vince's grandsons, right? And he actually, first of all, somebody asked in the chat here, Mike asked, is he related to Vince? He is not. He is not. But he, like he said, growing up in New York and having the last name Lombardi, it was hard not to be interested in football, right? But yeah, they are not related in any way. John Lombardi is going to be accepting some kind of, I think they're rings or something, some kind of ring ceremony they're going to be doing at Lambeau Sunday night, which is really cool. John Lombardi actually, if I understand correctly, owns the Lombardi Beer Company. So he makes beer, all right? That's kind of what he does. Joe Lombardi is one of Vince's grandsons that actually coaches in the league. I think he was most recently, I can't remember if he was out in LA or in Vegas, but he was with the Saints for a while. He's an offensive type coach, offensive coordinator, offensive specialist coach, whatever. So they got guys in and around the game that are within the team. I was going to try to find an NFL Films clip where you can see Vince holding one of them. And I think it was John. It could have been Joe, but he said, look at Big John here like that, and was like, bouncing him around. Really cool. They were talking about how the media would come over to Vince's house after the games in Green Bay and get together and have drinks in their basement where he had a bar set up and all that. But anyway, pretty cool stuff there. Back to football. Pass protection. Like we said, Tim, this is a stage for Jordan Love to take that next step, man. Everybody's going to be watching this game. It's going to be a top 5 ratings game of the regular season. There's no doubt in my mind.
Yeah, absolutely. And in the right smack in the middle of this primetime stretch for this young team, Thanksgiving Day football, Sunday night football, followed up by a Monday night football game. This is the meat and potatoes part of our season here. And, we're going to get a really good look at what the future is going to look like for the Packers. This is going to be Jay Money's biggest test. How he's processing the game. I mean, put it this way, that's what we're going to see. If the line can't hold up against the Chiefs rush, we're going to see just how great Jay Money is with his feet and scanning down the field. We're also going to see how well our young receivers can come back to the ball, find a place to sit down and get open when a play does break down. You don't want to assume it's going to break down, but you want to be ready when it does. And that's what the greats do. They find a way to succeed even when a play is busted, or maybe we don't, you talk about the hat count all the time. Maybe we have an unfavorable hat count, but, a step up or out of the pocket can extend a play long enough to, hit a guy that's, maybe broke his route, but found a place to get open. These are the things we're going to have to do because, Lombardi's right there. What he just said is, Kansas City tends to play really well in these type of situations. They are no stranger to primetime football in big moments. But I think this is going to be a good look at what we can expect going forward from Jordan Love and this Packers offense. And, I'm looking forward to it. I think I don't know if there's pregame jitters, but there's definitely a lot of pregame hype going into this. And, I think it's going to be important for the guys to try and keep that hype and that intensity throughout the game. We've seen this happen before at Lambeau Field where we come out really strong early and then we kind of just sputter and disappear. Hopefully that doesn't happen. But yeah, man, this Kansas City Chiefs defense is going to be gunning for us. And I just want to see the young guys respond.
Definitely. Jacob, what do you think, Bob?
Yeah, I mean, kind of to bounce off of what Tim just said there, I think it's important. We saw how well the team does when we get a fast start, because this year has been, the first couple of quarters have been like pulling teeth for especially the beginning of the season. You look at that Lions game, I mean, right out the gate, boom, hit to Watson, that kind of set the tempo of the whole game. And at that point, we just kind of went off and didn't we get up by almost 3 scores at one point in that game or something like that? So, I mean, and then to maintain that, like Tim's talking about, not just come out. I hope that LaFleur seems like he's started to get to put some fire under these guys, and they're starting to have a little pride. I thought it was, PFF had the overall power ranking for the Chiefs as their second overall, but I was really surprised that the Packers are 13th in their eyes. I'm a little shocked to see that the defense is ranked 10th for Kansas City. That's pretty impressive. But I don't know, they don't scare me. I think I saw somewhere in the chat, somebody just said the Chiefs are beatable, and I feel like that's the key. They just are. I mean, it sounds like maybe not a big deal. If Jerick McKinnon doesn't play, I think that's a kind of a low-key big part of their offense. The guy's really shifty. I hated playing against him when he was a Viking because he just was like that third down kind of scat back, but he was really good at getting first downs in key situations. And I don't know, do they have like a running back kind of carousel going on there?
Yeah, Jerick McKinnon is injured. Obviously, they got who's the other one? Pacheco.
Pacheco and Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Yeah, let me look at it right here. Actually, we'll show you. Yeah, Pacheco grading out 79.1 according to PFF. So Pacheco is as good as they come in the league, man. There's no doubt about it. If they're willing to lean on the run, which they've proven they are here lately, I think the last couple games, at least the last game, Pat Mahomes threw for less than 200 yards too, Jacob. So Andy Reid's just kind of focusing on taking what the defense is giving them. They're really, really down in explosive plays, but, you kind of mentioned their defense being top 10. I would actually argue they're even better. I mean, when you look right here, when you talk about opponent points per game, they're third, and they're only giving up 16.4 points per game. And then in points per play, they're third as well at 0.27. So the last 3 games, obviously, they've given up a few more points than they have been averaging on the year, 16.4 on the year, 19.7 in the last 3. On the road, they're giving up 17.4 points per play. So it's going to come down to that defense. Like someone said earlier in the chat too, man, it's going to be points or turnover differential is what's going to decide this game. There's no doubt in my mind. Bleeding Green and Gold said in the chat, the ball has to come out quick, period. I completely agree with that. Derek K says, only really concerned about Chris Jones blowing up our game plan. One thing you could say, I kind of feel like Matt LaFleur's done really good about interior defensive line, not letting them blow up the game plan. Sometimes they get creative off the edge. Obviously, we screwed the pooch that first matchup there against the Lions, letting Aiden Hutchinson take over, trying to use 3 rookies to block him. Don't like that game plan. But remember when Aaron Donald came in a few years ago, Elton Jenkins absolutely shut him down, right? So when you're talking about really good interior defensive linemen, I'm not so much concerned about that unless he is playing on the edge a bit. But if he does play on that left side on the edge, I like Zach Tom's chances of holding up too. He's gotten a lot of praise here lately. Let's see. Omer in the chat says one thing this offense is we're spreading it around with all the good receivers, tight ends. That makes playing D tougher with no one they can key in on. Yeah, when you can't really key in on one target, I completely agree, Omer. It makes things very difficult. Badger Trio says if we somehow win this game, I think the playoffs are a legit, real possibility. Could not agree more. You win this game, it's going to take an absolute just a collapse to not make the playoffs if you're the Packers. I mean, the momentum, the riding that high of just coming off a huge win Sunday night, national television against the defending Super Bowl champs, going to set the stage for you to finish really strong. If they lose this game, I think there's a legit possibility they make the playoffs, right? I don't think anyone should be looking at it as a slam dunk, not that you are. Mike, over-under on 2 drops from MVS Sunday night.
Yeah.
I got to take the over there, Tim. What do you think? Watch him come out and light us up, man.
I would say take the over, but it depends on how many targets. You know, the track record hasn't been great recently for him, so I don't know. Let's see how many targets he gets. But yeah, I'd feel comfortable taking the over for sure.
Yeah. One last thing we're going to hit on here, Jacob. I want to get your take on it. When you talk about their defense being so good, we've talked about the tendencies all week just to kind of keep you up to date. They run man coverage just as much as anyone in the league. They play a lot of man. They play, I think zone like 46% of the time, something like that. I think I've got it right here. Yeah, so they play man 34% of the time. They play zone 48% of the time. When you look at the rankings, that's the second most man coverage that they play in the league. Okay, so they don't play a whole lot of combo coverage. They either play man or zone. But man, they're right up there at the top, and they've got a really good pass rush. It's gonna be a tough game, but one of the things that Packers have going for them here is Elton Jenkins. Actually has an 86.7 pass blocking grade since week 8. So here of lately, he's starting to get back to old Elton Jenkins form. That's third among all offensive linemen. He's just one of those people like they got the brick emoji here, man. He's an absolute force, a wall up there. Let's hope that he can help Josh Myers out. But again, I see them putting Chris Jones over the right guard. And if that's the case, we're going to talk about Sean Ryan on PTA Live tonight and hear Brian Bulaga talk on him. But the whole debate there, Sean Ryan, John Runyon, man, it's that worries me. Putting Chris Jones in a 4-eye and isolating against our right guard. You worried about that, Jacob?
John Runyon Jr.? Yeah, a little bit. I don't know, man. That's one that makes me really scratch my head because that guy just seemed like he was at least going to be a really, really great pass blocking guard, and I don't know what's happened to him. It's weird. It's really weird, especially with Tom on the right of him. You wouldn't think that it's not like he's getting hampered by having a bad tackle. I just don't know what to think about it. And I love his dad. I love the grit. I like all that kind of stuff. It's just it's definitely going to be an interesting year going to the draft because I think people have kind of already set sail on Myers a long time ago. So I don't know what they're going to try to do to maybe try to replace him. But I hate the fact that we have to think about replacing Runyon because I just was so high on him right away. But it just seems like he's kind of left us no choice but to try to look for some sort of replacement there. And yeah, Jones scares me. But if you look at the rest of those guys on that defense, I do like. Is that Leo Chenal, the old Badger up there?
Oh yeah, having a heck of a year, man.
I was hoping that he was going to finally, shake the dust off and show people. And then of course they got McDuffie out there, but I don't know, man. The defense doesn't scare me. Bolton's not playing, correct?
Let's go back to it. I'm not 100% sure. I think he was out. There was one that was listed out. Let's see.
Yep.
Bolton. Yeah, he's out for sure. So,
gotcha. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Any given Sunday, that whole spiel, but I'm not nervous about it. I don't know why. I am a little bit nervous about Rashee Rice. That's one guy where it's like Lombardi talked about it. If that guy can put it together, he's got all the tools.
Yeah, and the real matchup where they like to play him in the slot, Keyshawn Nixon on Rashee Rice, that worries me, man. You can't bracket them both. If you're going to go the bracket route, you bracket Kelsey probably over Rashee Rice. I think the answer is the one no one wants to hear, which is the Joe Barry philosophy of 2 on the shelf, keep everything in front of you, bend but don't break. They're going to get a lot of yards. They're going to convert a lot of third downs, squeeze them tight when they get in the red zone, and continue on with that top 10 red zone defense that you got. That's kind of how I see it playing out for sure. So Tim, anything you want to add to Elton Jenkins there on that right side or on the left side there? Again, you can comment on the right guard too, John Runyon, obviously grading out in the 50s, man. Something's got to give there, dude. We'll talk about Sean Ryan during PTA though, for sure.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm just happy to see Big E back. Back to where we know he can play. We know he's other than Zach Tom, he's probably the best offensive lineman we have. Period, regardless of position. And yeah, I think to touch on Sean Ryan here just briefly, whether or not he gets out there on the field, I think we're going to see it. I think we might have to. Well, this might be the game we see the most snaps. Put it this way, I think, because JRJ is going to start, but if they're going to put Jones over him, I mean, he's going to be sucking wind and tired pretty quickly. And bringing in the fresh legs and getting more reps for Sean Ryan there on the line, who has been doing pretty well when he's been peppered in lately. I see that happening. But I don't know if we're going to see a total breakdown on our line. Sometimes, like I said, sometimes when you go up against the best, it can pull the best out of you. And I've talked about before this line sometimes kind of playing to the level of their opponent. And if we've got Jones out there playing at a high level, that may jolt something loose here on our line. And we might see a little bit of what we saw, similarly against Aiden Hutchinson in the Detroit game. We're going to see guys playing as a team, blocking by committee, maybe more substitutions, some more changes. But hey, let's hope for the best, guys. But having Elton Jenkins back looking like full strength, Big E in full force, that's certainly going to help us out big time.
Definitely. Let's see here. We've got Bleeding Green and Gold in the chat says, can't we plant a tight end on the right of the line and let Tom chip on Jones as well? If he plays in a wide in a 5 or 7 or a 9 tech, yeah. But when he's on that 4-eye, it's tough. You're going to have to go more of the wing route, right? What I mean by that is sometimes you put Christian Watson back there. I don't think that's the answer, having Christian Watson try to chip on Chris Jones. But if you do go to 12 personnel like he likes to do, he being Matt LaFleur, have either Tucker Kraft or Ben Sims kind of sit in that wing spot, right? Let Tom fan out and let that wing spot, which is essentially it's going to be on the left side from the offensive perspective, just on the left hip of the right tackle. And you can let Tom fan out, let the right guard, whether it's John Runyon or Sean Ryan, kind of get that initial contact, let the wing chip on Chris Jones in that 4-eye, right? And that will kind of help with the protection. Now, if you're doing that from the 4-eye, if he decides to come inside of the guard, right, come all the way across a gap and a half, then that's where Josh Myers has got to be on his A game and ready to help with that double team. So what we're talking about with setting the protections when you play someone like Chris Jones or Aaron Donald, they're going to be the mic. They may not necessarily specifically be the mic, but the whole defense, the whole offense's protection from the offensive line standpoint, and even the backs chipping, the tight ends chipping, is going to be geared around, let's make sure we get 2 hats on Chris Jones all game long. Now, if he's over Elton, different story. If they move him to the left, go the Aaron Donald route and go Big E, take care of business right there, dude. Let's see what you got. Go ahead, Jacob.
I just was wondering, because you guys probably, I don't know if you've been charting this, but is Myers the one now lately has been setting protections, or has Love kind of taken that over and been more aggressive? And is there a correlation with that and the recent success of Love? Does that make sense?
It's not as cut and dry as we would all want it to be. Give you a couple of different examples. Kurt Benkert commented on it and said, seeing Jordan change the protection is rare in this offense because in Matt LaFleur's offense, typically the center's taking care of it, right? With that being said, we know Aaron corrected Josh Myers all the time, right? We've pretty much, that's been confirmed by Josh Myers, by media members asking him, and then also Aaron Rodgers confirming it. So to answer your question, I think what you got happening is the quarterback can have the final say, but in a perfect world, the center's setting the protection. But we have seen, I know at least on 3 different occasions, I'm sure it's happened more often, Love stepped up to the line of scrimmage and reset it, and I did the mock. The reason it's important for me, in my opinion, to have the quarterback set the mock is so he knows who the free runner is. He's over here dissecting, right? He's dissecting everything. The center sets the mock. What if he didn't catch that? Or if he's thinking of, okay, what's that DB doing? Okay, he's on his heels. He's probably dropping. Got it. That guy's on his toes. He may be firing. That might be the free runner. And you lose sight of, hey, where's the protection? Who's the mock? Who is the free runner? I don't think it's as cut and dry as we want it. But to answer your question, Jacob, to me, it seems like Myers is setting the protection, and Love now has the ability to change it, to add to it at the last second. So, and I think him stepping up doing that in the last few weeks, whether it's the last 4 weeks or however long, I think that has been the difference, to answer your question. Again, we're not in the meeting room. This is all just firing from the hip, kind of wondering from the outside looking in, just like when we're talking about zone match coverage on defense. Unless you're in that meeting room knowing what the exact parameters are within that specific defensive call, it could be a variation of 10 different things. Kind of very similar on the offensive line setting the protection. I love listening to Mike Wall talk about it, Brian Bulaga talk about it, Mark Tauser talk about it, Kurt Benkert talk about it, Kurt Warner talk about it, because those are the guys who have been obviously in the huddle in the building. They know what goes into that. So that's kind of how I see it. Did I answer your question, Jacob?
Yep.
Cool. I answered your question without giving you an answer. I got you. See here, Mike in the chat said, I got a gut feeling Nixon brings kick back to the house. Tim, I would lose my mind, bro. That's the kind of break you need in a game against Kansas City. You need one of those tutters like that to kind of set the tone. And not only that, but just kind of give you that little extra oomph. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And in a game where the elements could possibly play a role, I'm looking for kicks that are returnable. You know, depending on what the wind factor is, how slick, you know, the environment is. Some of these kicks could be left short. And we've seen as of late Keyshawn being way more disciplined back there. You know, we've seen a couple that early in the year he would definitely bring out of the end zone. And I don't know if there were conversations in that locker room about that. We know Keyshawn does not like the touchback. He does not like the fair catch. So if any of these kicks, you know, are coming near the goal line or, you know, dropping near the 5 or the 10 in that area, get ready. They're coming out. And, you know, Keyshawn running with the ball is just something to watch, man. You know, the agility that he has, you know, it's not like he has this lightning breakaway speed where he's just a speed guy, but he's just such a good runner and he has such good field vision. I could see it happening. Maybe that lends logic or lends some credibility to the logic that if we win the toss, take that ball. Let's take that opening kick. Give Keyshawn a chance to put us up 7-0 right out of the gate. That would be interesting. But yeah, I could see it. Hey, we're due, right? We're due for a Keyshawn tutter on a kick return. So I'm all for it.
Yeah, definitely. Paul Robertson in the chat said, how do you stop Pacheco? And then he went on and said, lots of play action from the Chiefs. You got to pick your poison, man. You know, I know, and I'm not saying you're saying this, Paul. I know many fans on Twitter, they like to pretend like, oh, it's just as easy as, well, let's stop on both. You know, you gotta pick one or the other. Now, as far as play action, Kansas City is actually only running play action 23% of the time. That's ranked 20th in the league. However, their EPA ranking, the success they have when they run play action, is 7th. Now, when you talk about their different type of run schemes, they run gap run 29% of the time. They run zone run 71% of the time. So they run zone the 11th most in the league, but their EPA ranking is only 22nd. So when they're in zone, you know, think of this too. The Packers, everything about their offense has been geared around building an offense around zone run, right? So if there's any team that's practiced that the most, it's the Packers. The gap stuff is what I feel like really gives them problems. So with that being said, play action, the thing that strikes me as odd about Kansas City is they like to play a lot of 13 personnel and they like to pass out of it. So when you pass out of 13 personnel, what's going to be the defensive call for the Packers? Probably going to be a 34 jam loaded box would be my guess. I don't think they will go to a 5-2 look against 13 because Kansas City likes to pass out of that 13 so much. It's so rare you get a team that plays that much 13. And they play 13 out of the gun, which is really, really wild when you think about it. So because sometimes when you think of 13, you think big eye, that type of look. That's not what Kansas City does. So with that being said, I think we're ready to wrap this big bear up. We went over. I was going to try to keep it to 45 minutes. We're at 1:04. Let's go around the horn. Look at Tim grinning like a possum in a dumpster. He knows it's never going to happen. Tim, what you got, buddy?
Yeah, absolutely, man. Can't shut us up, right? We love talking ball. And it's awesome to have Jacob back in the mix, man. This is so cool to be on with you guys. Going into the biggest game of the year, right? Last week was the biggest game of the year. Well, it's a new week. This is the biggest game of the year for us right now. And, we got to show up and show out, take care of home. I've been saying it all year, protect 1265. Let's go. We have to respect this opponent, but not fear them, right? We always talk about this. They're beatable, right? I agree. Jacob said it, man. This team's beatable. There's no reason we can't win this game. But you have to have a healthy respect for the defending Super Bowl champs coming in your building. But we're not going to lay down by any means. And it's going to take all hands on deck. Everybody's got to execute. I hope we're tuned up and ready to go. And looking forward to the game tomorrow night.
Got it. Jacob, what you got, big dog?
Yeah, man. I just started thinking in the last day or so about if we were to go on some sort of like magical 2010 type run, what positions and what players would maybe need to all of a sudden come out of their shell and just all of a sudden make the difference. And I started thinking about guys like a Carl Brooks. If it's at like a random linebacker that starts playing unbelievable ball, if it's at one of our safeties all of a sudden starts being shut down. On our offensive side, it's like if Love keeps his progression going, if Wicks takes a step, or if Watson shakes off the dust and comes out, and what if he wants on another run where like he scores 7 touchdowns in 3 games, whatever it is, he did that last year, if you remember that.
Yep.
So I'm excited, man. This team really feels like that they are starting to shake the dust off and really get cohesive. And I think that if they can put back-to-back major wins where they were the clear underdogs and really make, on a national stage, I can't think that there's anything more of a confidence builder going into a potential playoff run. And I'm just here for it, man. I'm excited. I'm not stressing anymore. Like Ryan said a few weeks ago on his podcast, like, I don't care. Like, if we lose, we lose. It is what it is. I'm not going to, I say that and I still scream at the TV at the top of my lungs. Right now, I'm not sweating. I'm chilling. I'm good.
No, man, look, we said it going into the year, 6 to 10 wins, right? We're right there in that ballpark. We're playing with the house's money. Everyone expected them to finish dead last in the North. That's what the Vegas odds suggested. Yep. This whole year should be stress-free, right? The biggest issue we ran into is they showed some promise early against the Bears, and it's like, hold up, all right, they ain't going to miss a beat, and then you hit that slump, right? And that's where we all got to check ourselves, no doubt about it. But yeah, man, it should be stress-free watching this game. Nobody's expecting them to beat the Chiefs. 6-point underdogs. You kidding me? If they come out, it's just like Detroit. If they come out and beat the Chiefs like they did Detroit on Thanksgiving, you're exuberant. If they lose, it's you kind of seen that one coming, right? But I love Tim's. I don't know. I love his positivity, saying, "Hey, we're going to go in there and get a dub Sunday night in Lambeau Field." I'm all about it, man, for sure. But really appreciate everybody hanging out with us. We had a bunch more we wanted to get to, but we went over. Jacob, it's so good to have you back, man. Really appreciate you hanging out with us. Obviously, I'm going to make sure you got the link every time. I know you've had a lot of stuff going on, so just understand, don't feel obligated, but you are welcome to any and everything we do when we go live, for sure, man. The show is so much better with you on it, bro. I know you're sitting there going, "Shut up, Clayton. I don't like the way I'm feeling right now," but I just want you to know you mean the world to us, dude. And that's why I'm trying not to look at the camera as I tell you. So appreciate everybody in the chat. You guys are absolutely awesome. Nick McSwain, thank you so much for the super chat, buddy. We appreciate you supporting the stream. We'll be back for PTA Live, Packers Total Access Live at 7 p.m. Central tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern. As always, let's go out and be the change we want to see in the world, and go Pack Go.